Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jessica Johnson. I am a board-certified family nurse practitioner specializing in endocrinology, diabetes, and obesity. My goal here is to inspire and empower us all to live healthier lives. Now, my ultimate goal is to help you improve, reverse, and ideally prevent chronic diseases. Today, I'm diving into a topic that I get asked about quite often. What is metabolic health, and how do I know if I'm metabolically healthy? And these are excellent questions, especially with so much conflicting and inaccurate information out there regarding how to be healthy. Your metabolism is the foundation for your overall health. It impacts everything from your energy levels to your weight to your risk for chronic diseases. But how do you know if your metabolism is functioning well? The answer lies in several factors to include signs, symptoms, certain biomarkers, and lab results, which can all be ways to assess your metabolic health. Now, later in this video, I will walk through certain biomarkers and labs you should know, what they measure, and what the results mean for your metabolic health. So grab a notebook and save this video for later because you'll want to keep this list handy. Let's get started. First, what is metabolic health? In order to understand metabolic health, we first need to know a little bit about your metabolism. Metabolism is a set of all the chemical processes that occur within a living organism to maintain life. It's how we convert the energy from our food and our drink into cellular energy. Cellular energy is the energy our body uses to perform its multitude of functions. This energy is coming from metabolic processes that are happening within the mitochondria, also known as the powerhouse of the cell. And metabolic processes are happening 24/7. And we have over 30 trillion cells within our body that need energy to do their job. So this is important to get right, and it can illustrate just how crucial our metabolism is for our overall health. One way to define metabolic health is through the lens of metabolic syndrome. Now, in medicine, when we use the word syndrome, it means a group of symptoms or physical findings that tend to occur together. And it can indicate a specific condition or an increased chance of developing a specific disease. Now, metabolic syndrome is comprised of 5 conditions that tend to occur together. And when present, these conditions raise a person's risk for cardiometabolic disorders such as heart disease, stroke, diabetes, and other health problems. The 5 conditions that make up metabolic syndrome are a large waist circumference, which is defined as more than 40 inches in men and more than 35 inches in women, high blood pressure, which is a reading of 130 over 85 millimeters of mercury or higher, high blood sugar, which is a reading of 100 milligrams per deciliter or higher, high triglycerides, a reading of 150 milligrams per deciliter or higher, low HDL cholesterol, defined as less than 40 milligrams per deciliter in men and less than 50 milligrams per deciliter in women. A diagnosis of metabolic syndrome is often declared when an individual has 3 or more of these conditions. Unfortunately, there are many people walking around with metabolic syndrome and they don't even know it. So they're either unaware or underestimate the risk this condition poses to their health. Just knowing if you have this condition can be a strong motivator to prompt healthy change. Now, I know at first glance it may seem like these 5 conditions have nothing in common. In fact, often these conditions are treated separately within our healthcare system. While yes, these conditions can have causes that are unrelated to one another, there is one common thread amongst all these conditions, and it's metabolic dysfunction. This metabolic dysfunction can be due to things such as chronic inflammation, insulin resistance, oxidative stress. But it's important to understand that these factors can be improved significantly through lifestyle change. So it's important to know where you stand. Now that's metabolic syndrome. Metabolic health has been defined as having optimal levels of those 5 conditions that I talked about previously. Why? Because we know that having just one of these risk factors is an indication for metabolic dysfunction. And this is significant because metabolic dysfunction is at the root of most preventable chronic diseases. So how are we all doing in this regard? Unfortunately, as a collective, we are not doing so well. Now, you may have heard the alarming statistic that came out of the NIH from researchers at UNC that found that only 12% of the American adult population were metabolically healthy, and that included individuals who were normal weight. This 2018 survey utilized NHANES data from 2009 to 2016. And metabolic health was defined as having optimal levels of the 5 risk factors that I discussed previously, with the addition of a hemoglobin A1C of less than 5.7%. The criteria for good metabolic health was defined as having the following: triglycerides less than 150, high density lipoprotein cholesterol, that's your HDL cholesterol, of greater than or equal to 40 for men and 50 for women, a fasting blood glucose below 100, a hemoglobin A1C of less than 5.7%, a blood pressure reading of a systolic less than 120 and a diastolic less than 80, a waist circumference of 40 inches in men and 35 inches in women, and not taking any related medications. If all these were met, you were considered to be metabolically healthy. This survey found that 88% of us do not meet this criteria and have at least some degree of metabolic dysfunction. Now, even more recent research from the Journal of American College of Cardiology looked at 55,000 US adults and found that 93.2% of us have suboptimal metabolic health. This research was published in 2022. The study was conducted between 1999 and 2018, with optimal cardiometabolic health declining to 6.8% by the time the study ended. This study had slightly different criteria for metabolic health and included a BMI of less than 25. Waist circumference was the same with 102 centimeters for men and 88 centimeters for women, translating to 40 inches and less than 40 inches in men and less than 35 inches in women. Fasting glucose less than 100. A1C was the same, with the criteria being less than 5.7%. This study utilized a total cholesterol to HDL ratio of less than 3.5 to 1. The blood pressure criteria was the same, being a systolic of less than 120 and a diastolic of less than 80, without the use of medications or history of cardiovascular disease. At the end of the day, these two studies show that the U.S. cardiometabolic health has been poor and worsening, from 12% to 6.8% of the U.S. adult population having good metabolic health. Put another way, 88 to 93% of US adults have poor metabolic health. Now, I'm linking the articles to these two studies in the description box below for you to take a look at. My question to you is, are you in the 6.8 to 12% of the US population? And that brings me to the next question. How do I know if I'm metabolically healthy? These are the 6 essential biomarkers to assess your metabolic health. And I want you to know your numbers like you know your phone number. So screenshot this if you need to. So let's look at what labs assess metabolic health. Why are labs so important? It's because they give us a clear, measurable, and objective look at how things are functioning in your body behind the scenes. Symptoms such as fatigue, sugar cravings, or difficulty losing weight can all hint towards metabolic issues, but labs provide the hard data. And as you may have heard, what gets measured gets managed. Think of your labs as a metabolic progress report, not necessarily a report card, but a progress report. They tell us things like how well your body processes blood sugar, or how well it responds to insulin, whether your triglycerides and your cholesterol levels are in healthy range, if your liver is functioning optimally, and even if inflammation could be silently impacting your health. So let's break down some essential labs you'll want to know. The first is your fasting glucose. This measures your blood sugar levels after you've been fasting for at least 8 hours. Elevated fasting blood sugars can be a sign of prediabetes and insulin resistance. And again, you ideally want to see this below 100. Next is the hemoglobin A1C test, and this is a 3-month average of your blood sugar levels. And this is a key marker or key lab test that's used to diagnose prediabetes and diabetes. And just a little bit of a background, hemoglobin is a protein that's located within red blood cells and is responsible for facilitating oxygen. The A1C test tests how many hemoglobin molecules have sugar stuck to them. If blood sugar levels are high, over time the glucose is going to stick to the hemoglobin molecules. This is called glycated hemoglobin, and it's measured in the form of a percentage. Again, a normal A1C is less than 5.7%. The next test is the lipid panel, or the cholesterol test. This test includes your total cholesterol, your HDL cholesterol, your LDL cholesterol, and your triglycerides. Now, why it's important? Because high triglyceride levels and low HDL are markers of metabolic dysfunction. Now, your triglycerides, your HDL cholesterol, your fasting glucose, and your A1C test can all be done at your annual primary care visit, and these labs are covered by your insurance. And during that examination, you can get your waist circumference and your blood pressure. Again, that's covering those 6 essential biomarkers to assess your metabolic health. Here, I'm going to go over a few more labs that go into a little bit more detail to assess your metabolic health. Fasting insulin. This is a wonderful test to assess insulin resistance, and it assesses your fasting levels of insulin after you've been fasting for at least 8 hours. The fasting insulin level can be high even before your blood sugar levels become abnormal. So it is a very important biomarker to assess. High sensitivity C-reactive protein. This is a marker of inflammation within a body. Chronic inflammation is closely tied to metabolic dysfunction and chronic disease risk. Your liver functions test, in particular your AST and your ALT. This test is a measure of liver enzymes that assess your liver health. Now, the liver is a very important metabolic organ. Fatty liver disease is a very common sign of metabolic dysfunction, and this test can help assess if there is concern for fatty liver disease and prompt further evaluation. Now, the GGT is another protein that is made in the liver and can give an indication of oxidative stress. Vitamin D test, which measures your vitamin D levels. Low levels are associated with insulin resistance and poor metabolic health, and so many of us have low levels of vitamin D. So it is very important to know your number, because this is a level that can be easily modifiable through good quality vitamin D supplementation and, of course, sunshine. A thyroid panel, which includes your TSH, free T4, free T3. Why this matters? As many of you know, an underactive thyroid can slow your metabolism and make it harder for you to lose weight. So this is a very important assessment. Uric acid test. High uric acid levels can indicate issues with metabolic health, fructose metabolism, and inflammation. And lastly, apolipoprotein B. The apolipoprotein B is a marker of cholesterol particles within the body that can lead to cardiovascular disease. But this last group of labs, oftentimes, you can have pushback with getting these lab tests done. Things like your fasting insulin levels and instances when you don't have diabetes. But you can also have a very candid conversation with your primary care provider, letting them know why you're concerned about these labs, why you want to have them done, and see if that opens up a better chance of your provider ordering these labs. And luckily now, there are more direct-to-consumer lab companies that offer these lab tests at relatively low cost to you in the event that your insurance won't cover them. And now here's a list of even more nuanced and in-depth metabolic health testing. And again, these are all much more in-depth and nuanced testing to really get a deep dive into your metabolic health. These tests are typically done in a functional medicine practice and are not typically done in a primary care setting. But again, going back to the essential biomarkers, these tests are what you need to know, like the back of your hand. Know them, understand them. These tests paint a picture of how well your body is functioning on a cellular level. Once you get your test results, don't panic if something is outside the range of normal. Consider these labs tools to help you identify areas of improvement. They paint a picture of how well your body is functioning from a cellular level. And the beautiful thing is that these biomarkers can be improved through healthy lifestyle change. So to make this easier, I have created a downloadable PDF that goes over all the labs that we talked about today. You can download it, print it out, take it to your PCP office. Ideally, I want you to use this as a guide for yourself and create several pages, because each time you check, you'll be able to track your own trends, see where you're making progress, see areas where you need to focus a little harder to make improvements in your overall metabolic health. If you found this video helpful, please like the video and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notification so you never miss a video. Thanks for watching. Bye.